how I was arrested by SARS, the 4 years imprisonment, the torture, the pain I passed through. Alright, good morning. Okay. Alright, I have to do this now. A lot of you have been asking to know what really happened, how it happened, how I was arrested by SARS, the 4 years imprisonment, the torture, the pain I passed through. The woman who, raised an alarm that I brought armed robbers to her house, and I was arrested by SARS, taken away from Asaba to Lagos State, where I was brutalized, I was tortured, I was hanged. I was a driver to Mary Agbajo, Barrister Mary Uibocha Agbajo, SSA to former Delta State Governor Emmanuel Udua. I went for a birthday party somewhere in Miriam Bangida Road there in 2011. So I met Mr. Jerry, who I was serving drink, and he told me that wow, the way I was serving him drink, he just liked it. And he said, "What are you doing? Are you in school?" I said, "No, I'm looking for a job." He said, "Okay, fine. Take my number." We exchanged contact together, me and Mr. Jerry. And he told me that if we find any job opportunity, he's going to call me. So that was what happened. He called me about 5 days after and said that there's a job, a driving job he wants to give me, that if I can do the driving job. I said, "No problem." And I took up the job. He took me to the woman's place and test run. I did some test driving and she liked the way I drive and said she will employ me. And she paid me 20,000 naira per month. This was in 2011, in November. I started working. For 1 week, 2 weeks, I was coming from my village to her house in Asaba. Because then I was not having any business in Asaba, so I was coming from village to her house in Asaba. So I would come in the morning by 8 o'clock, I would wash the car. By 9, we'll step out, go to government house and some other places too. So I was with this woman, I worked for her with my clean heart, with my clean spirit. And for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, the security people outside, even people were saying, how are you working with this woman? That this woman have had like previous drivers, like 4 or 5 drivers in just like 2 months. So how are you working with this woman? I said, I don't know, but I feel I'm a very patient person. I don't talk, and when you offend me, I don't even talk to. I said, I'm working with her. There's no issue for now. So by ending of November, we traveled to Gwamnishu State on our way for a burial. A bike man hits us from the bumper and damaged the back windscreen, the back glass. So she was shouting at me, yelling, said I'm at fault. I said, I'm not at fault, but the bike man hit me from behind. How am I at fault in all this whole stuff? So she changed it for me, and later we came back to Asaba and we fixed the car. She took the car to the people who fixed it. They bought new glass. About 4,000 naira we spent on the glass. We work on it. Then everything was going on smoothly. Till the end of November, I was expecting my pay, and I said, "Madam, I wanted to get my pay, So I was scared to ask her for my pay. So I told Jerry, the one who led me to her, Mr. Jerry. I said, Mr. Jerry works with Ministry of Works. Sir, can you help me talk to Madam to pay me the money? I want to use it to sort out some things." And he said, "Why she has not paid me?" I said, "I don't know." So Jerry now called the woman. The woman now told Jerry that, didn't I tell him I went and sent on my way to Uma that she used my salary to repair the car? So Jerry now told me that Madam said use your money to repair the motor and stuff for you. I said, how? So Jerry now said, "Don't worry, Madam is just trying to know how patient you are or whatever, she will pay you." I said, no problem. I was still working. And by December, I was still with her. So December 12th, people were traveling for Christmas and everywhere, offices were shutting down. We were receiving packages from government for Christmas and rest of them. So she told me that we were going to Lagos. I said, but I can't go to Lagos because I have to do my parents in the village, I have to travel. He said, no, okay, if you drop me in Lagos, then you can now come back. You know? I said, okay, fine, no problem. I drove her, we entered the car with her half head. We went to Lagos. She stays in Orego, Ikeja. I drove her from Masaba to Lagos. Getting to Lagos, I was expecting if I drop her in Lagos, I would come back to Delta. She said, no, I should wait to that she doesn't have any driver in Lagos now. How can she come back? How can she drive around only her in Lagos? I should hold on. I should wait. Before 28th, I will go back. So, and I said, okay, where will I sleep? I don't have anybody in Lagos. He said that I should go and sleep with the gate man. You know, the gate man's house there. I should be staying with the gate man. She called the gate man and said, gate man, I should start staying with the gate man. And the gate man even said, madam, how that place is too small, very small room. That two of us can never stay that place. And for me, it's not even hygienic for me to even stay there. So she started making contact and called one agent. Agent asked, okay, I should come and stay with them in their house. When I got there, about 5-10 persons were staying in one room. So I managed it, I didn't complain. And I told them how everything is good. I told the boys to ask me, how you know this woman now? I said, I'm a woman driver. So I said I was with the woman, I was with those boys in that house. Ogechi is in Lagos. Ogechi is my community group. So I called Ogechi, I said, I'm in Lagos, so I don't even have any money. Ogechi was now bringing me money, like 1,000, 2,000 for me to just feed, while I was still came with the woman to Lagos State. 20th of December 2011. Madam, I want to go back home. It's 20th. The woman said, hey, go back, I want to go back now. I should go back. That by January I should come and pick her up from Lagos. I said, okay, fine. Can I get my pay? She said, which pay? That she used the salary, that my money, the amount she used in repairing her car, and my salary is not even up to fix it. That my salary is 40,000. If my salary is 40,000 for the 2 months, that she has not taken it for the car she repaired. I said, fine, no problem. I called Jerry. Jerry, what the woman is telling me. The woman, Jerry said, she called the woman. The woman was not picking Jerry's call. Jerry now said, please look for a way and come back to Delta. I said, how will I come back? I don't have money. I don't have single money. I don't have. So Ogechi, I called Ogechi. Ogechi now said she doesn't have money. My parents, my father, and I called them. They now sent me a charge card of about 5,000 there. And now Ogechi now helped me and sell the car to somebody, convert it to money, and I enter bus from Lagos back to Sapa. So then I was now having pain in my stomach when I was coming from Lagos. So 24th of December, I was in my village. Nothing. I was just there. My mom were the one feeding me. My parents were the one feeding me. So I was in the house and I was having serious pain in my tummy, and I discovered it was. I left home. I didn't tell my parents what was wrong with me, but I went to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, they said if I pain this, they have to admit me that it's ripe and they want to do surgery. So I was admitted in the hospital in Local General Hospital, December 25th of December 2011. I was in the hospital. I was there for like till January. So then I think the woman came back January or something, and she called me that she's back. I should come to her house. I thought maybe she wanted to pay my salary. I had the bandage in my stomach. I have not even removed the stitches. Because after 3 days, I should come and remove the stitches. I had to use bike. How do I go to Sapa? I don't have any money. There was swear in the motorcycle, my dad's motorcycle. I have to drive the motorcycle to Sapa to go and meet Paris and me back in our house by DPSU. When I got there, she said, now I'm back. We should go to Warri, because she lives in Warri, DSC in Warri. That's where her parents stay, her mom. And we should go, that she will consider to see if she can pay me. That's if I'm on good behavior. I needed the money. I have to drive back. With the stitches I have in my stomach, I didn't even tell her I was ill. I dropped my bike outside there and we drove to Warri. The stitches I was still having in my stomach. We got to Warri. I thought just to go to Warri and come back. for 3 days we were away for the weekend. So when I came back, she gave me 5,000 naira. I said I should use it and go. That later she would call me. That the government is just using January, that she would call me. So I left. And she didn't call me again. Then the next call I got was from the gate man. People called me and said, Harrison, madam, don't get a new driver. Say driver, then call robber for night, attack her for night. And the mother then use ass cut the woman head for back. I said, okay, fine, no problem. I will just come and say hi. I drove Okada from my village to Gwamnishu down to Asaba. Then when I got to Asaba, I went to the hospital, St. Louis Hospital by DPS Road. I went there and I saw Mr. Jerry. I saw her neighbor who stays upstairs with her, who brought her to the hospital. And they said I think they were stitching the head. So I said, okay, fine. If she gets up, we should tell her I came to check up on her and also to sympathize with her too. That was what transpired, what happened. Until June of 2012, I received a call from a man who, his name is Simon, said his mother's brother, that he came to the house to look for me, but he didn't see me, that he heard I was the woman's driver. So that if I have got another job, I said, yes, I'm now working with Honorable Tony Akpomie, who was then a House of Assembly member, representing Ethiope West in the Delta House of Assembly. I was his personal driver. That I'm now working with the man. The man I said, okay, fine. I wanted somebody that would help me to drop the car in Abuja, carry the car from Abuja to Abuja. And if I have anybody, I said, okay, if I have somebody. So I wanted to connect him with one of my friends named Martin Bouquet to drive the car from Asaba to Abuja. So he said I should meet him in Chronicle Hotel. So I dropped my boss in the office. My boss was now practicing in one law firm by up 24 in Asaba. So I just dropped my boss in the office. I said, let me just rush down to meet the man at Chronicle Hotel so I was able to make plans on how to carry the car to Abuja. Getting there, I was arrested. They handcuffed my hand. They took me to A Division Asaba. I was there for 4 days in the cell. Nobody told me what happened. Nobody told me who arrested me. I was in A Division Asaba for 4 days. One morning at about 6 a.m. in the morning, they called me out from the cell and said we are heading to Lagos. That I should enter the car. Sorry, they brought me from the cell, took me to the counter. It's called slap. And the small kid like me, now we find from Lagos come. They were wearing suits, we have beards, we have earrings. They were slapping me. I couldn't open my eye. Oh yeah, carry your stuff. They gave me my nylon and they handcuffed me my back, put the cuff in my hand to my back like this. And they forced me into a car, 2.4 car, parked outside. This was how I was sitting down in the car. At the same time, once somebody was here, the officer was here. There, the man at the front, his name is famous, tallest, he has PS, tall. That's what they call him in the SAS office. In the Keja Lagos, Scorpion base. And they drove me from Asaba, going to Edo State, getting to Ore. They stopped me so that they can buy, maybe they want to buy food. And I was on handcuff. They brought me down from the car. The handcuff was still in my hand and they kept me on the floor. I was in tears, I was crying. I was just calling the people who were selling banana and granolas. I was calling and said, please, I'm innocent, please pray for me, I'm innocent. All of them were looking at me, what is this smoke doing now? What are you doing now? So crowd were gathered looking at me handcuffed because the slap, my eyes were covered. So the women were just crying, they were just praying to God. So the officer just came and just saw the crowd were gathered looking at me. He forced me back in the car and they were driving me on the express to Lagos. He brought up the priest to say I should confess that he will shoot my leg and tie it with the nylon I was using to carry my clothes. I should confess to the crime. He was making video of me. I said I did not do anything. I don't even know what is happening. I even went to see woman in the hospital. I'm not involved in anything that happened to this woman, to Mary at Badger. They were videoing me, taking my picture, and was pointing gun in my leg. I didn't confess. With all the pains I passed through, handcuffs still behind my back, tied, was paining me. I did not confess to the crime I didn't commit. I was tortured in the car. It took me until I arrived in Keja, police headquarters in Keja. Police headquarters By your right, if you enter by your right, that's where they have the SAS office. He took me there. And then I entered, say, now this one guy will find what's about. All of them bounced on me. He took me to the counter, I dropped my clothes. He removed my trousers, I was wearing boxers. He removed my clothes, I was naked. And they took me upstairs to write statement. I told them I was the driver to Barrister Mary Abajo, and if anything happens to her, I'm not aware. But I heard something happens to her, and I even came to hospital to meet her. So I should write. I wrote exactly what happened, how I knew Barrister Mary Abajo. I wrote it in the statement, and that was it. They said it wasn't the truth. I should write what happened. That one of the boys mentioned my name. I said, I don't know. If somebody mentioned my name, I was part of the robbery. Then the person comes out here and says that this is the person that joined me to rob Mary Abajo. My where I had the appendix was already healing. So one of them from the back hit me with a bell. Pow in my stomach. And it was so hot. He said, hey, you never ready to talk now. You never ready to talk now. They now took me to the cell. In the cell, we were like almost 80 in one room. People were standing, you can't walk without matching somebody. So when you are walking, you have to walk with care before you can pass through the place they kept us. And when I entered, he just asked me to march one corner. And I stayed. And they asked me what brought you. I told them what brought me. I explained to them what brought me to the cell. And he said people were just pitying me. Because I was very young then. I was having small body and I was very, very young. And I was in the cell for like 2 weeks in the cell. My parents, my dad had an accident before and he had a partial stroke. One hand, one leg is gone. My dad will enter motor from Asaba, from Ubuluku to Lagos, looking for me. And when he got to Lagos, he connected to our village brothers, Tony, Gugu, some other people who were in Lagos, and all of them were coming to see me while I was in the cell. And the news was out there in my village that I committed robbery, kidnapping, I snatched cars. So I was in the cell for like 2 weeks. Nobody told me what happened. Nobody told me why I was arrested. They only said someone mentioned my name that I was part of the robbery, and that was it. And one morning, the president, they call him Mashal, said, oh boy, if you don't shout, if you don't knock it, this will not hear you. So that morning I had to start banging the gates. I was banging the gate. I said, you should come and release me from here. I was banging the gate, and that was how they took me up. The cell guard came from the CRO, the person at the counter came. And I said, okay, who is your IPO? I said, Inspector Victor Moruche. I don't know the IPO's name. It was in the cell that I told them, I described the IPO that he has sorry to say this. His eyes was, something like, he has a bad eye. And he said, okay, fine. They now said, it's Inspector Victor Moruche. They said, okay, fine. Later at 10 a.m., Victor Moruche came and said, the high say they make noise. What happened? I said, sir, you should take me to the person that said mention my name. If the person looked into my eyes and said, Harrison is involved with this whole stuff, then you guys should just kill me. So he said, it's okay, no problem. Why prepare, we can go somewhere. So they called me up around 11, 12, and they picked me to, they asked me to enter the Hilos van, and they drove me. And we arrived at, they took me to Kirikiri prison in Papa, where they took me to the office, to the record office, from there, from the reception to the record office. So while we were there, they entered the office. I was just at the reception with other inmates who came in, the new inmate that came in to prison. They said I should wait there. So I think they went to call somebody from the prison. So they brought one inmate to the inside the office. The person will come out, another person will enter. will come out. Then I was even on handcuff. So they took me inside the record office. And they asked the boy, is this Harrison that flew to rob Mary and Badger? The boy said no. He said, is this not the Harrison that flew to rob? He said no, doesn't know me. I've known, he doesn't know me. And me too, I don't know this boy before. They said, they now said, okay, this is the Harrison that flew to rob Mary and Badger. The boy said, no, this is not the Harrison. The mothers were happy. I could record in about 3 officers. Ojo is there, and one other woman again. The woman is from Gwamnishu. The female prison record officer was there. She witnessed everything that happened. How the boy said he doesn't know. They now gave the boy a paper to write a statement. He now wrote a statement that I was not part of people who followed him to rob this woman, Christ and Mary and Badger. I was happy. I thought that would have been my freedom. On our way going back to the SAS office, they stopped on the way. They even bought me gala and cook. They removed my handcuff. I was just in the car with them. I went back to the office. They now told me, okay, now that I should hold on. The woman will come the next day. By some reason, my will call me to the police. They will invite her to come. So even while we were in the car, they were making call, telling her, madam, this the boy no identify this boy. You making people come so that they will fit release them, or make you come so that you will fit movements to take one. I was hearing the voice conversation we were speaking. So the next day, they brought me out from the cell and told me to come upstairs. Getting there, I was just walking up with the officer that was behind me. I saw the woman. She was tying a black scarf and a black dress. She was wearing glasses. And from far, the woman just pointed at me like, this is the person. The man from the back gave me a slap in my ear, boom, boom, got me at my waist and pushed me and took me back downstairs. I thought they were taking me to the cell. He took me to the behind where they call theater. Now, theater is where suspects are hanged, are tortured to confess to crime. So theater is where suspects are kept, tortured to confess to crime. They tied my 2 hands to my back, my 2 legs, my hand and my leg to my back. Put iron rod here and they raised me up to that stuff there. Put a very big chain on my neck. A very big chain on my neck. Tied me, raised me up to that place. And in less than 1 minute, I was paralyzed. I felt like there was nothing moving in my body. And the other guy was using something to hit on my legs, hit on my knees. That was where I sustained most of these scars here. So they brought me down. I heard a voice from up, and it was shouting, "Bring that boy down! Bring that boy down!" It's not the boy that they couldn't identify the prison. Bring him down. And when I saw myself again, was in the hospital. I was people were pressing my chest, and I saw it was doctors and nurses that were pressing my chest. And doctors were telling them, no, refer him to Lagos State Teaching Hospital. And next I saw again was they moved me, they put me at the back of the open pillows. So when I saw my uncle, I think they called my uncle that I passed out. Mr. Tony, who was in Lagos, Tony Buko. I saw him there, and I saw them. They were calling my name, but I couldn't talk. But I saw them. I know I saw them. They took me to the youth hospital, where they put drip on my fist strip, and they took me down to the station. I was paralyzed. I couldn't move. So at the station, they didn't put me in the cell, but they kept me at the corridor. And the next day, they took me to court, magistrate court in 7 occasion. And I was remanded by the magistrate. And that was how I found myself in prison, clinical prison, clinical medium prison. And I was there for for so long, like 2 years plus. And my case was in awaiting trial. And that was it. So while in prison, my dad, who had a partial stroke, was coming from the village. My mom would just go and do some family work for people, like menial job for people. They will pay her 500 naira, 1,000, 1,500. At times she makes big money. She makes like 2,000 naira. She gather the money and give to my father. My father will bring it to the prison for me. Please, can you off that stuff or lock that up, please? Can you hear me? It's making noise. So my father would bring it to the prison for me to buy some stuff, and also from there pay legal fees too. Until I was there, like as if I found my voice while I was in prison, and I was hearing radio because in the prison we are opportunity to use phone. We pay for phone, handset, and we want us to smuggle the phone inside the prison for us to use. So we pay money, they help us to get food from outside, and we pay them. So from there, I was listening to radio every night, like 9:30 p.m. to 10. Inspiration Radio by Charles P. He has a program called Sharing Life Issues. So I heard him call his number out. I took the number out, and I called him on air that I'm in Kirikiri for a crime I didn't commit. So he heard I think people were listening to the program, and that was our barrister Nika came to the prison the next day to see me, and he took the barrister Nika to me, who happens to be from Gwamnishu, and he stepped into the matter. Later, Raymond Nice from Gwamnishu stepped in. He made your first step in to the matter. He got me a lawyer who was also working on the matter. Then I think things were very, very slow too. Then a woman from Hallmark newspaper, Ebere and me, got in contact with Barrister Gabriel Giwamu, who came to the prison to call my name. And Gabriel Giwamu was now firing from the DPP, and later the gave advice that I have a case to answer. It's the boy that said he doesn't know me, and they should take us to talk. Since the case did not happen in Lagos State, Lagos State does not have jurisdiction to try our matter, that is take us back to Delta State. And that was how I was transferred after 2 years in Kirikiri prison. I was transferred down to Delta. So sorry, I was transferred from the court. Court struck out the case. He took me to SARS office in Keja. From there, he took me back to police headquarters in Asaba. From there again, I was charged to court, magistrate court, who are in Asaba. From there, I was taken to Gwamnishu prison, where I was. So in all these times in prison, I found favor in the eyes of the authority. I found favor in the eyes of the prisoners, because one, I was good with the ICT. I can press computer, I can teach people computer and rest of them too. So while I was in prison, I was in privileged cell 6, where that's what they call the VIP cell. So I was there and I was kept there. Later I became assistant presido, like assistant marshal. That's the number one in the cell. I became the number 2 person assisting the presido. September 2015, the boy who said he does not know me, that could have stand in the court, we are going to the court together, that would have told the world and also the court that I was not involved in the robbery, escaped from prison custody. I don't know how he escaped. I was not standing alone. It became very, very trouble for me. And November 30th of November 2015, the woman who said I was the one who attacked her, the people, the police, nobody was showing up for my case. Nobody came to tell the court that this is what I did, this is who I robbed, this is how I robbed anybody. Nobody showed up. And the judge summoned for my case file. And 30th of November 2015, the judge said, you are hereby discharged. And that was how I was supposed to be prison. So after prison, it's been a very tough one too. So I kick off a program for people who were in prison. I was going from one cell to the other, one prison to the other. I was now bringing out innocent people detained in the cell and in prison. I was now going to the cell, bringing out people, innocent people who were detained in prison. And somebody sent me a link to apply for a program by U.S. Department of State. That's a Washington Fellowship. So I applied for the program, and I just applied. I would just write. I don't know what to write, but I wrote it myself. Nobody wrote it for me. But I wrote about myself, about the job I do in Nigeria, connecting lawyers to people in prison, helping them for rehabilitation and rest of them. And I got a mail that I have been selected for the program. I have interview in Port Harcourt. So I said, people say, it's a scam, it's a scam. I said, let me just try. So I borrowed transport from Asaba. I went to Port Harcourt, I went for the program. Interview, it was a white woman that was interviewing me. I was just talking my experience in the prison, how I'm helping people, how I'm able to organize a program for prisoners through rehabilitation program. And he said, well, for me, I have selected you, but the decision will be made from the US. They're going to send the reports to the US and they're going to give us the feedback. So that was what happened. But I think about a month later, I got an email. Congratulations, you have been selected. And that was it. And later I got a email coming in, your visa, your passport, send your passport, come to Abuja for your visa, for your pre-travel conference, and the rest of them. And that was how I left Nigeria to the United States of America, New Jersey, Rutgers University, New Brunswick, New Jersey. Fully funded program to the US. Yes, that was how everything started. So today I wake up from sleep and I felt like I got to share it without unedited, like live video, telling you how it all started and what transpired. So it's not edited or maybe take it to the news or anybody to edit it so we can be able to give you maybe a very, it's just one-on-one with me now and you guys too. So this is why when I woke up this morning, I remembered what happened in the past years and how a woman framed me up. And I'm trying to bring it now to the today reality. Imagine if somebody now raised alarm today and said, I robbed somebody. And many will believe that truly I robbed somebody, I killed somebody, I carried arms. I don't even know how to shoot gun. I don't know. If you tell me how to shoot gun, I only see movies, guns with the gun in the movie, and this is how they shoot gun. I don't know how to shoot gun. So somebody will come tomorrow and say, Harrison kidnapped someone. And yes, many people will believe, because even then in 2012, people believed that I was involved in the robbery. People believe I was involved in the car snatching. People believe I was involved in the killing. So that's just it. So till today, this woman has not come forward to tell people, this is who loved me, this is Harrison was involved in it. So I said I would not sue anybody. I would I would leave it to God. But when I was applying for my US visa, there was a column there where they asked, have you been convicted of any crime, or have you been arrested for any crime? I now said yes, I've been arrested for a crime. And I said explain. I explained it. And this alone delayed my visa from them giving me visa. They gave everyone visa, all the fellows who were going, they gave them visa, but I was not given visa until they asked me to go and provide my court judgment, the discharge, that the judgment from the ruling from the court. So I got it from the High Court 5, and I will bring it to them in Abuja. They submitted it, and that was how, after they checked it, I was given visa to travel. So if you're out there listening to my story, this is where this happened and it was